Pati si Thor nakikinig.
Wala si Tita Edna.
People assume that video games have a negative effect on people and their attitudes, brains, and emotions. Today I'll inform you about the positive effects about video games have. The positive effects is to enhance their skills, it improves versatile cognition, and it releases frustration and also underlying for skills that it helps with. Now that we know the positive effects about video games, let's move on to the first one. Right, so the first one is that people assume that people that play video games are lazy and there's nothing really good out of it. Typically they assume that it's just a waste of time and that there's nothing good that comes out of these things. What I like to say, in contrary, is that it does help enhance skills. It helps enhance your cognitive skills, such as your spatial navigation, reasoning, and memory. In addition, what I found out is that the study from Isabel Granick from Rambam University stated that shooter video games help players to think in 3 dimensions as well. Now we know that it helps enhance skills. Let's move on to the next positive effect about, which is improving visual cognition. Another accusation people make is that violent video games and aggression tend to have a correlation with one each other. That violent video games, that people that play like GTA, Call of Duty, and all those, they take those type of shooting things and it could be like they take it to society and they try to blame that on the reason that there's mass shootings and all these other things. But on the contrary, I like to say it's Christopher Ferguson has stated that had done research on violent video games and aggression, has stated that they do not correlate, but in the research he did find that it helped improve visual cognition. Now that we know the effect that video games help improve visual cognition, let's move on to the next effect, which is the release of frustration. The good thing about video games, I believe, is that it's a safe haven. It allows people who play these type of games to have opportunity to release their frustration or anger out onto something that won't physically harm anybody. It won't hurt anybody to release this anger, not onto some physical being. These good games that I talk typically, like you can release your frustration, is like GTA or Call of Duty, or these types of games. The good thing about them is like you won't actually hurt anybody. They're good. They help enhance your skills. A student that had given a survey to Chandra McKenzie has said that she stated that video games do not encourage violence, even games like GTA, because it creates a place to release that anger, vent their frustrations, and this is what I do agree upon. I agree that these games, they don't necessarily hurt anybody. Most of the games, they require you to be at least 17 of age or 18 of age to purchase these games. So at that age, you can make the recognition, like you're capable of knowing right from wrong. So you're not gonna go out into society to harm anybody. Now that we know the positive effects of video games, it's to release frustration. Let's move on to the next effect, which is underlying skills. When it comes to underlying skills, a lot of people don't realize that there's like small skills that you obtain from playing video games. You learn skills such as cooperating skills with one another. Typically one of these games of like Halo, Call of Duty, any team type shooting games, is typically with somebody. So you're with somebody trying to cooperate in order to beat the mission. So you have to have a majority of these, so you're speaking with the other person, so you're speaking on how you can work together. So this is a good skill to have when you bring into society, because you're capable of using it and knowing how to cooperate with one another. You learn another skill that you typically learn with is negotiating. When you're negotiating some games, you trade items or something, and you might actually have to like bid with the person and debate on how much you would want to sell the price for. this is a good business tactic to have in real life because you could use this and you could use it for like negotiating, coming in business. A student who agreed with me is Jessica Douglas, who stated that there's a lot of underlying positive skills that video games promote that people don't generally think about. Now that we know that there's underlying skills, I want to show you a quick video about how our brain functions using the video games during video.
The parietal cortex, which is very well known to control the orientation of attention. The other one is the frontal lobe, which controls how we sustain attention. And another one is the anterior cingulate, which controls how we allocate and regulate attention and resolve conflict. Now, when we do brain imaging, we find that all three of these networks are actually much more efficient in people that play action games.
Alright, so now that we know, this woman was describing how our brain functions when it comes to these action games when we're playing it. I think it's a good skill to know about. For our next one, I'd just like to take a moment to review about what we've learned so far. So far we learned that video games have a positive effect as far as it enhances our skills, it improves our perceptual cognition, it releases frustration, and it helps with underlying skills that people don't necessarily recognize with. Now that I informed you about the skill behind the video, about video games, you now know that there's a positive effect with them as well. Just end it.
Stop.